In this lesson, we'll review a problem from a long fictional reading passage. We're on page 854, question 7. We know this is a fiction passage because you see in the italics it's from a novel. You also could see it's from a short story. If you see either of those two words, you know it is a fictional account. And why does it make a difference? You really have to read it in its entirety. You can't focus on the main theme, so it's more of a sequence of events. There's more interaction, dialogue. You have to gauge tone and irony often. And the good news is a little bit more interesting, I think, for a lot of students in some of the dry academic subjects that are nonfiction typically. So here in line 1, the very beginning, the phrase parento burro suggests. But before we answer this, you always read the italics, not just for nonfiction or fiction, but also just give you some reference as to who's reading or the time frame. So I'm going to read the italics. Hopefully you've done this already on page 854. We know in this passage from a novel, the narrator has been reading letters of his grandmother, Susan Ward, and is reflecting on the meaning of certain events in her life. In about 1880, Susan Ward was a young woman, a writer, and a mother whose husband, Oliver, was working as a mining engineer in Leadville in the West. Here, the narrator imagines Susan Ward as she spends the winter with her family in Milton, New York, before rejoining her husband in the spring. So this is letters her grandmother wrote around 1880 when she was a young woman. Her husband was working far away in the West in Leadville, and the grandmother, who's just a young woman at the time, is spending it with her family. From the parental borough, Leadville seems so far away, it was only half real. So that's what this question is asking for. What does parental borough mean? And if you read a little bit further, unwrapping her apple-cheeked son after a sleigh ride down the lane, she had difficulty in believing she had ever lived anywhere but here in Milton. And a little bit further on, she felt how the calm industry of her day matched the placid industry of all days that had passed over the farm. Through the 6 generations, present and past were less continuous than synonymous. You should be able to gauge here that time sort of stands still here in Milton, and Leadville, where her husband is, seems far away. She's in the parental borough. Borough is sort of like a tunnel or a hole. Parental, right? She's taking care of her son, and this is sort of the way it's been done through generations. So what does that suggest about parental borough? You should recognize that it relates to family, and it doesn't change. Let's look at the choices here. A lack of luxurious accommodations. You can't infer that. I mean, this is sort of the way it's been done. There's nothing about like bare necessities or luxury. So A is definitely out. How about B? An atmosphere of peaceful security. So it is secure and peaceful, but that's not what parental borough means. You should recognize it has to do with sort of family, right? She's sacrificing taking care of her son while her husband earns a wage far away. How about C? The work required to sustain a home. All right? You're not going to see the word family, but sustaining a home, that recognize it's relating to taking care of the household. That looks like the best choice. D, a lack of interest in simulation. No, that's not an inference. And the loss of privacy. What does parental borough? It means taking care of the household and the family. And so even though this is the first question, it's sort of a moderate level 3 type, and try to predict it. It's not that difficult, I think, but you definitely have to read the italics for context and also the fact that it's nonfiction. All right, the answer here is C. See you next time. Thanks for watching.